Malaysia's military was once one of Southeast Asia's strongest. It had advanced supersonic fighter jets that only few had in the region. However, since the start of the 21st century, Malaysia's military has fallen off. Singapore, Thailand, and even Indonesia have surpassed Malaysia's military might. Malaysia, over the past 24 years, has seen tremendous problems and challenges to its military. So, what happened? How did Malaysia's military go from one of Southeast Asia's envious to one of its weakest? Well, to understand that, let's talk about what made Malaysia strong to begin with. In the mid-1970s, the Royal Malaysian Air Force, RMAF, had acquired the Northrop F-5 fighter jets. These were highly regarded aircraft due to their supersonic status. These aircraft were one of the reasons why the Malaysian military stood out in Southeast Asia. However, the problems of the Malaysian military had already begun with this acquisition. The very problem that Malaysia continues to battle decades later has already shown up in the mid-1970s. When the RMAF acquired the Northrop F-5 fighters, there were issues with corruption. The National Bureau of Investigations, NBI, said that they were investigating allegations of corrupt practices surrounding the purchase of Northrop jet fighters and trainers by the Royal Malaysian Air Force. The Malaysian government spent about $39 million on these supersonic jets. These were arranged on a government-to-government basis. What the investigation found out is that certain individuals were allegedly paid a kickback by a local agent. The kickback, reportedly paid as an inducement to purchase the jets, was 3% of the total sale value. Then in 1978, a retired Malaysian Air Force Group Captain Ahmed Shah Hashim was sentenced to 7 years in prison for accepting $23,340 in kickbacks in exchange for recommending the government purchase 16 F-5 jet fighters. He was also ordered to return the $23,340 to the government within 6 months. This early acquisition of fighter jets had already shown the issues behind the Malaysian military. It is embroiled in corruption, which in turn makes it weak. What makes this even more scary is that corruption in the past is nothing compared to the corruption of the 21st century. Fast forward to 2009, this very F-5 jet fighter was again plunged into controversy. The problem here started when 2 F-5 fighter jet engines valued at $29 million were stolen. There were reports being published that these stolen jet engines had been sold on the black market by military officers to a South American company. The engines were reportedly taken from a military airbase around 2008. The Armed Forces Chief Aziz Narif described the theft as just the tip of the iceberg after a completed audit revealed that military equipment worth millions of dollars was also missing. This led scrutiny against government officials. Police officers had also gone on and arrested 4 individuals, including the buyer, the seller, and Air Force personnel involved in the theft. At the center of this issue was the Prime Minister Najib Razak. Najib had seen a rise in corruption under his tenure. When this occurred, the opposition to him had even alleged that an illegal commission of $157 million was paid to a close associate of Najib to facilitate the purchase of 2 French-made submarines. The Prime Minister was denied any wrongdoing in the deal, which was signed in 2002 when he was Defense Minister. But just like the F-5 fighter jet, these submarines were too at the center of controversy. These started back in 2002 when Malaysia purchased 2 French Scorpion submarines for 1.2 billion euros. This was a massive deal and would earmark Malaysia's advanced submarines that could take on foreign threats. However, this deal would later become mirrored in controversy, revealing deep-seated corruption within both Malaysia and the French companies involved. These were all due to the introvertment of Abdul Razak Bajinda, a close associate of Najib and the director of the Malaysian Strategic Research Center. He had a company called Permacar, which received 114 million euros for support and coordination services related to the submarine deal. The only problem was the company was new and did not have relevant experience. They also received additional sums of 32.5 million euros, which were suspected to be part of a bribery scheme aimed at securing the deal and benefiting Malaysian officials, including Najib. When the French investigations had initiated their case, they uncovered evidence of a complex network of intermediaries and shell companies used to funnel bribes, in violation of the OECD Convention on Bribery. The investigation implicated former executives of Thales and DCNS along with Baginda and Najib as key figures in the scheme. Despite denials from the Malaysian government, this scandal highlighted the systematic corruption within the country's defense sector, with critics accusing Najib of allowing national wealth to be misused for political gain. This has again showcased the very nature of Malaysia's military, one that is weakened by corruption. One of the most scandalous events in Malaysia's history, however, is not these, but rather the $2 billion Littoral Combatant Ships LCS project. The LCS project was dubbed as Malaysia's naval future. They needed this project to bolster its naval capabilities. Yet an investigation by Malaysia's Public Accounts Committee, PAC, had exposed significant issues with the country's defense procurement processes. They found that the procurement had been involved with mismanagement, corruption, and inefficiency. This started when the project was awarded to Boustead Naval Shipyard SDN BHD, BNS, through direct negotiation by the Ministry of Defense. This would see the construction of 6 LCS vessels. Despite the government having paid 6.08 billion Malaysian ringgit or 66.65% of the total cost, none of the ships have been completed. 5 of these ships should be delivered by August 2022, but physical progress remains woefully behind schedule. The problems involved were many, but one of them was because of corruption. The PAC highlighted how $314 million in government funds allocated for the LCS project was misappropriated. The PAC report also uncovered that the contract's terms were heavily skewed against the government, with a convoluted subcontracting structure inflating supply costs by 3 to 4 times. To put it simply, the corruption and mismanagement associated with the LCS project not only drained substantial government resources, but also severely compromised the integrity of the contract itself. But that's not the only problem here. The report also highlighted the questionable role of BNS in the scandal. The company was found to have diverted $89 million from the LCS project to settle old debts from a previous New Generation Patrol Vessel, NGPV project, which had been plagued by delays and cost overruns. Why would they use money for the LCS project to pay old debts? That is the largest red flag here. Not only did they inflate supply costs, but they were also prioritizing other projects instead of the LCS project. Furthermore, an associate company of BNS, Contraves Advanced Devices, CAD, was even involved in its own scandal. It was alleged to have siphoned off $223 million by inflating prices on equipment procured from the naval group of France. What may be even more surprising is that an opposition member in 2022 had called on the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, Chief Tan Sri Azami Baki to explain why no charges have been recommended in what is considered Malaysia's largest naval procurement scandal. The opposition member pointed out that while a former Boustead Heavy Industries Corp. BHD managing director was charged with corruption, it wasn't related to the LCS scandal at all. A year later, by 2023, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim had voiced the need for continued investigations into the LCS project. He wanted to identify the quote-unquote real culprits behind its delays in financial mismanagement. By April 2024, the investigation was reported to still be ongoing. The Chief Commissioner Tan Sri Azam Baki said that the investigation has taken time due to complexity of tracing financial transactions and gathering evidence from multiple sources. Nevertheless, some individuals involved in the case have already been charged in court. So, as we saw throughout many projects, big and major projects were involved in mismanagement or corruption. What this simply means is that Malaysia is not really maximizing its budget for national security. A part of it is going to the pockets of someone else. This not only makes the Malaysian military equipment to make poorer decisions, but also decreases the morale of the entire country, especially its military. Finally, one should not forget that these are all just major projects. If scandal is seen in the billions of dollars worth of projects, then surely it can be seen in the smaller ones, those mere small millions, right?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ya teman-teman, ini ada sebuah video yang menjelaskan tentang bagaimana militer Malaysia itu sekarang kondisinya adalah lemah. Dulu berjaya, ya justru Indonesia adalah yang lemah di ASEAN. Tetapi sekarang mereka yang lemah justru di ASEAN. Nah, apa sebabnya? Dari penjelasan dalam bahasa Inggris ini sudah sangat clear bahwa di tubuh militer Malaysia pun tidak luput dari yang namanya rasuah ataupun korupsi. Bahkan korupsi ini menyebabkan sistem pertahanan negara menjadi terancam. Ya, akibatnya apa? Dengan lemahnya sistem pertahanan negara, berarti dengan mudahnya negara asing ya itu akan bisa masuk ke dalam negara Malaysia atau menguasai Malaysia atau mengendalikan pertahanan dari Malaysia itu sendiri. Nah, inilah salah satu bahayanya dari sistem yang memang sudah terlanjur ya, sudah rusak, ditambah lagi dengan namanya rasuah tadi ataupun korupsi. Jadi yang namanya korupsi ini ternyata juga sama dengan di Indonesia, bukan hanya terjadi di kalangan bawah ya yang dilakukan di sekitar masyarakat, tetapi juga sudah jauh mengakar ya di level di paling atas, yaitu sampai dengan level ke pemerintahan. Dan di militer ini tentu sangat membahayakan sekali ya. Dan mudah-mudahan masalah ini tidak menyebabkan Malaysia semakin militernya bertambah lemah, karena dari hasil yang dibicarakan tadi, contohnya ada kapal LCS, di mana kapal LCS ini seharusnya sudah selesai dari beberapa tahun yang lalu, tapi baru bulan April tahun 2024 baru satu kapal ICS yang telah selesai. Jadi ternyata salah satu sebabnya masalah korupsi. Kemarin Pakde masih bertanya-tanya, kenapa kapal ini kok tidak selesai-selesai ya, padahal sudah dibangun jauh-jauh hari, sudah 5 atau mungkin 7 tahun yang lalu, ya bahkan lebih mungkin ya. Kemudian juga adanya penggelembungan dari nilai-nilai bahan yang ditawarkan untuk dibeli, sehingga ini menyebabkan semakin meruginya militer Malaysia, karena barang-barang tersebut ternyata tidak bisa dibeli karena harganya terlalu tinggi. Kemudian juga ada masalah kasus seperti pengurangan atau pengalihan ya. Jadi dana untuk LCS ya, pembuatan kapal LCS ternyata kabarnya dijadikan sebagai dana untuk membayar hutang kapal terdahulu yang memang masih belum selesai dalam pembayarannya. Tapi itu benar atau tidak, Pakde juga kurang paham. Tapi kondisinya atau menurut informasi yang dari video ini menjelaskan seperti itu. Nah, kalau sudah mengakar seperti ini, korupsi di suatu negara, tentu ini akan menyebabkan salah satunya ketimpangan dari sosial ekonomi dari negara tersebut, sehingga tingkat kemajuan dari negara tersebut akan terhambat. Nah, mudah-mudahan kita semua ya segera menyadari dan segera juga bisa ya bangkit dari keadaan untuk memerangi yang namanya korupsi. Karena korupsi ini adalah sebenarnya bukan musuh negara, tetapi musuh dari rakyat. Karena apa? Karena korupsi ini merugikan rakyat secara langsung. Kok bisa gitu, Pakde? Iya, karena yang dikorupsi itu adalah uang dari pajak rakyat. Jadi rakyat bayar pajak, ternyata uangnya digunakan untuk kepentingan pribadi atau kelompok dari orang-orang yang punya peluang ataupun kesempatan untuk menyelewengkan dana tersebut. Salah satunya adalah dengan cara melakukan pembelian fiktif atau melakukan pembelian dengan nilai yang di atas dari yang seharusnya. Ini yang sering terjadi. Nah, mudah-mudahan kita semua sadar akan hal ini sehingga kita bisa lebih maju lagi ya, bisa lagi membangkitkan perekonomian negara bila pemimpin-pemimpin kita ini menyadari akan pentingnya untuk bertindak jujur kepada rakyatnya. Oke, dari Pakde cukup dulu, kita ketemu lagi di video yang berikutnya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam.